Hey, welcome back to the show, the wrestling show. We're keeping it real, goes right. Welcome back to Real Take, Wrestle Talk Live here on YouTube. Trevor, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself, man?
Haha, I'm doing great, pal. You got a lot to talk about today. AEW. Wait, I'm sorry. AEW. That's the least of our concern today. We're going to be talking a lot about WWE. Finally, Trevor, we're going to be talking about WWE. Also going to be talking about In Your House, NXT TakeOver In Your House, which is this past Sunday. Going to be talking about Samoa Joe possibly returning to WWE. Hell in a Cell preview for this Sunday. Does WWE have too many heel champions? Kenny Omega possibly retiring, and much, much more. Before we get to any of that, though, as always, fam, remember to hit that like button. Smash it if you have to. It's for daily updates. Also, be sure to hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever one of our daily videos gets released. Got a bunch of awesome work in the pipe for you guys. But, Trevor, let's kick it off and talk about NXT TakeOver In Your House, which aired this past weekend. We saw a lot of good matches, and we saw a lot of weird matches and weird finishes to matches that a lot of people disagreed on. But just overall impressions of the show and, what you've heard and what you kind of thought about this. Because a lot of people thought this might have been one of the, weaker TakeOver shows we've seen.
So, I was kind of looking forward to it, to be honest, because the last In Your House I thought was really good, which they did last year. But so like I said to you earlier, I didn't see every match, but I didn't watch. I saw the replays. It was decent. I will say it was kind of weak, and I guess the best word for it was weird. I kind of totally agree with that. It was kind of weird for some reason. I don't know why. It just had a weird air about it.
Yeah, and a lot of people pointed to maybe the crowd in the Capitol Wrestling Center maybe was a little off. Maybe there was not enough energy. Maybe it would have behooved them to pipe in some crowd noise, because there was times on the show where there was some dead air.
Yeah.
Where you just heard nothing. You could hear a rat piss on cotton, as Ray Lewis would say, right? So there was that. It was an issue, I think, for a little bit. On top of that, I think the other issue we saw was, the finishes, or sorry, no, the matches just seemed to be very standard as far as NXT goes. Like NXT, we're used to seeing not no holds bar, but these amazing matches and spectacles. But it was a very it was a good show. It was a fine show. It was a fine wrestling show. It's just not to the standard of, I think, a lot of NXT shows that we've seen in the past, especially
I
takeovers.
feel
But
like it was kind of just put together. It wasn't much plan put into it. You know what I mean? I feel like it was kind of rushed.
yeah, I think that's what I felt too. But one match that I think everyone agreed might have been and probably is match of the night was the first match on the card, which was for both the NXT Tag Team and North American Championships.
But that was a
It
very
was.
good.
It was a very good match, a very good opening match, especially. It could have been the main event, and I think it would have been great. But Bronson Reed, the NXT North American Champion, and MSK, who were the Tag Team Champions, defeated all three members of Legado del Fantasma in a six-man match for a winner-take-all for both of the championships that were on the line. There were a lot of great moves in this match. The exhibition, this was a spectacle in itself. As I said, Bronson Reed and MSK retained both their titles, but a lot of people thought this was the time to put Legado del Fantasma over, especially considering they really came to prominence last year. I think that's a big gripe that people have with this match specifically, maybe the outcome, but I thought it was great. The end we saw MSK member pin, I believe it was Mendoza for the 1-2-3 after Bronson Reed just destroyed the barricade on the outside, and along with it Santos Escobar. But I thought it was a good match, probably the best match on this card by far, and yeah, I again, no qualms really. I think it would have been a good time to have a title change, especially considering we really didn't expect many titles to change on this card. Not the women's championship, not the world championship. So it was good.
Yeah, it was good. Like I said, it was probably the best match on the card. Like the premise of it, winner take all, was honestly was what intrigued me, to be honest with you. Because I don't think I've ever seen a match quite like that.
Really? You've never seen a winner-take-all match in WWE before?
No,
It's not like
not
they haven't done 7 since the
no,
Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey.
I'm talking about like that, where you have a tag team and you have a championship. I've seen winner take all matches, of course, but I've never seen it set up quite like that, a tag team style match.
Fair enough. The next match we saw was Xia Li defeated Mercedes Martinez in a pretty quick match by pinfall. And it was a lot of people didn't see this finish coming, especially this quickly. I know I was surprised at it. You know, Xia Li hit her move 1, 2, 3, and then we saw Mei Ying come out and do a weird choke on Mercedes Martinez and basically like knock her out, throw her off the ramp. But this was like an underwhelming match. And it's not up to the par, I think, that these two women can go, because these are two people that are amazing athletes. And again, I was expecting more from it.
I was expecting more from it, but you know what? I kind of think a smash match like that was kind of good for the women's division, kind of sort of, because you don't see too many matches like that in NXT go that quickly as far as women's concerned. So I think it was a good match showing Xia Li's dominance, honestly, against a worthy opponent in Mercedes Martinez.
That's not my and I agree, and I think it's good that they're having women's feuds that aren't about the title. I think that's what a lot of people have been clamoring for. Like we're gonna talk about equality, women's equality in wrestling later on after some comments by Triple H earlier this week, but and I think this is a good step for that. And sure. Do I like the fact that they're trying? Yeah, but this should have been a lot more successful than it was. Like this wasn't good. Yeah, that's the thing. It wasn't good even by, I think, NXT standards. But again, it's all subjective, right? Next, we saw LA Knight and Cameron Grimes competing in a ladder match for the $1 Million Championship. I love LA Knight. I make no bones about it. LA Knight is the future of the WWE and NXT. He defeated Cameron Grimes in one hell of a ladder match, man. Some of the bumps that Grimes took in this match, I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" He took bumps, he took straight up bumps on his back with the side of the ladder pointing up. Like that is insane. He took a great bump off one ladder onto a bridge, and then LA Knight was able to climb and capture the $1 Million Championship belt, which apparently is a belt now in NXT. But I think there's nobody better than LA Knight to have that title. There's nobody better to represent that $1 Million Man brand than LA Knight, because he's a heel. He embodies it, and it gives him, I think, something to work off of, something he didn't have before. And, I think this can lead to him eventually becoming bigger.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like LA Knight as well. He just oozes like assholeism, and I love the persona.
He oozes asshole?
Not out of his asshole, but and demonetized. But but no, he's a perfect heel. Perfect heel. Love LA Knight, and a lot of people forget how well Cameron Grimes can actually work, because you don't get a chance to see it so much. But that was a great match. That was a very fun match, very good match. I thought he took a lot of bumps. It was fun. It was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch Muggle.
You were waiting for that, weren't you?
I got to do my JBL impersonation every week. But yeah, no, it was, for me, it was this match and the Bronson Reed match. Like those were the best matches. Everything else kind of fell flat, to be honest, for me, including the main events. Let's get to one of those right now. Raquel González. She successfully defended her NXT Women's Championship against Ember Moon. There was talk that Ember Moon might be able to recapture some of the energy she had during her first run in NXT and win the NXT Women's Championship this time around. That did not happen. Raquel González retained. We saw the return of Chauncey Blackheart. That wasn't enough, however. And So this was part of the pay-per-view where my feed just cut out.
Right.
And I think it was my internet that was a problem that night. That's why I had streaming problems on this channel too. But I've gone back and seen the match, and it was a fine match. Again, it was a fine match. I just think, Raquel González looked dominant in it. I thought there were a lot of points where she was obviously, the one that WWE wanted to highlight in this. Not saying
Right.
Ember Moon didn't, showcase her skills. We already know what Ember Moon can do, but it was a good showcase match for Raquel González. And going off of that, I think a lot of people did think, though, why isn't Ember Moon maybe getting in more offense? I think that was coming out of it the biggest thing. So, give me your thoughts on this finish.
So, again, like, I understand how, like, when it comes to certain, like, matches, especially when it comes to, like, higher tier wrestlers, you got to make, champions look a little dominant and things like that. And also, if since she is a heel, every winner isn't going to be clean. But I feel like Amber, like you said, Amber should be getting more, in a little more anyway, because, well, I mean, you brought her over there to pretty much showcase her a little more, because she's a big fish in a little fish in a big pond over in Raw. Now she's a big fish in a little pond that she helped build a brand over in before. So you would think she'd be a little more over, kind of like Finn Balor. But
that's exactly what I like, the comparison I was going to draw. I was like, what they did with Finn Balor for the NXT title picture, they should, I think, do with Ember Moon, because Finn Balor now, he's a star. He is he's a bona fide star again, because what have we seen? We've seen him actually win matches, which we didn't really see regularly on Raw, and people forget who was the first ever Universal Champion ever. It was Finn Balor. So, but people don't remember that, because Finn Balor, at that time, before he came back to NXT in 2019, he wasn't the same person that he was when he came up to the main roster. He wasn't the same person that he is now. So,
exactly.
Just to finish up, I think if they do the same thing with Ember Moon, it's going to yield very similar results. And that's a good thing for NXT. It's a good thing for wrestling. It's a good thing for WWE, because, let's be honest, NXT is really where all the stars are being made in WWE. We're not seeing a lot of stars being made on Raw. We're not seeing a lot of stars other than Roman Reigns, who's been there for 6, 7, 8 years, over a decade on the main roster. And he just became what everyone wanted. He just started clicking with the fans after all this time. So so the main roster doesn't make people like they used to, or as well as NXT. So I think NXT needs to do that same thing with Ember Moon for her to be successful in WWE.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Let's get to the main event of this, which honestly had me a little perplexed, but
yeah.
So Karrion Kross defeated Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, and Pete Dunne in a fatal 5-way match for the NXT Championship by technical submission. Kyle O'Reilly there took the submission loss there. But we saw in this match, it's weird, because usually when you do this kind of match, right, you do a fatal 4-way, fatal 5-way, it's kind of like, okay, even if we know the champion's going to win. But one thing we know coming into it and going out of it is, hopefully coming out of it, you have some fresh new feuds you can do. One thing I was like, okay, hypothetically, what WWE could have done, Kyle O'Reilly and Johnny Gargano getting into it, and then that could throughout the match, and teasing that for the future, or or maybe Pete Dunne having the victory in his hands, and then Adam Cole comes in there and ruins it, things like that. Things that create fresh matchups, things that create fresh feuds that you can go directly out of this match and just go into that, and there's no need for a transition. That this match did not accomplish any of that.
Yeah.
What this did accomplish, and again, it's what they're going for probably, is Karrion Kross looked like a dominant champion, the most dominant champion ever, because anytime he was in the ring, he literally killed all 4 of the other guys. Every time by himself, he would just go meow 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 like Hogan in WCW '94, just meow punch back rake. Oh, thank you. like just destroying people. And who got over? What are we doing after this? Because Karrion Kross just looks like an unbeatable champion. And there's really nowhere to go from here. And I think that's another issue people have with this. And, no one's expecting the title to change hands. You can't do that every show. That's one of the things we like about NXT. But it's like they didn't. I just think they didn't do enough with what we were given. It was a good match. It was a good match. But at no point did I think the championship was in peril. At no point did I think, did I feel like we were getting something fresh and new after it. It was just like, it happened. And that's not a good sign, I think, for NXT.
I was confused. So I go up and back and forth with Karrion Kross. I like Karrion Kross. I do. I liked him before he got to NXT. But my problem is this. You bring him over to NXT, and at the time you had possibly one of the most dominant champions in Keith Lee, right? And Keith Lee won both belts, whatever. You were building Keith Lee. You were making him this superstar. Okay, cool. You then make a quick feud. It was a quick feud. I think Karrion Kross had maybe 2 matches in NXT before he feuded with Keith Lee. If you make a quick feud with Keith Lee, then you have him dominate someone who has dominated pretty much the whole division. Drajakovic, Dream, even Adam Cole, who was a dominant champion. You had Keith Lee do all that. Keith Lee held that belt maybe a few months, and then you let him drop it to Karrion Kross. And I'm still wondering why. I mean, it just so happens he got hurt and had to give it up, but I'm still wondering why. And then you give him a few more matches. He comes back, and you have Finn Balor, who again, dominant champion. He comes back with the belt, having great championship matches, by the way. And then you let him get dominated by Karrion Kross, not once, but twice. And again, not knocking it because it's cool that he is champion. It's fine, but like you said, they're marketing him in a lot like Goldberg back when Goldberg first came out. Like he's unbeatable, he can't be beaten, whatever. And again, it makes it boring. It makes it lackluster. Like I honestly don't care to watch championship matches anymore because I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I like the point you made. Like we know the championship is likely not in peril right now, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be. For how much people like to say we love AEW, the Kenny Omega, we know he's not going to lose to Jungle Boy in 2 weeks. We know that's not going to happen. We know he's not going to lose the title to Jungle Boy. It doesn't matter though. It's not the point. It's about what happens after. It's about how they follow up on what happened. And look, NXT's doing their show right now. After this, we'll probably check it out and see what happens. But at the same time, nothing coming out of this match, nothing during the match showed me that there was like a follow-up feuds that were coming out of here, which I think you need to do to kind of take away from the fact that the championship was never in peril. And, it's just... Again, it's just one of those. That's an easy thing in wrestling. I'm not a booker. And you don't have to be a booker to know this kind of stuff. It's not. As someone who watches wrestling, it's pretty easy to be like, well, I know nothing's gonna really change, but what if we had something coming out of this? What if we had Adam Cole and Pete Dunne feud, or Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano, or Pete Dunne and Johnny Gargano, things a fresh matchup coming out of it. There was
things that you could have
to distract us from that, to make us focus on that. Make that be the focus coming out and be like, oh my God, we're getting this cool matchup. Instead, with the only thing they even hinted at in this match was another thing between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, for Adam Cole O'Reilly 18 in the past 4 months.
Right.
I'm and again, it's like I said, it was a fine show. This is like, I enjoyed this much like I've been enjoying a lot of WWE pay-per-views lately. Short, like action-packed matches, or short pay-per-views, action-packed, and easy to watch. That's what it was. And it's fine, but with the NXT standard that has been set, it did fall below that standard, in my opinion.
I totally agree. It's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things that I feel like they dropped the ball. And also, I feel like it was too much of a good thing. It was too many superstars in one ring.
Yeah, agreed. But we'll have to see what they do. Hopefully, they find a way to fix that. In the meantime, guys, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. We got daily videos every single day about not just wrestling, but sports as well. Coming out of NXT TakeOver, though, we found out some amazing news, Trevor. Samoa Joe is officially back in WWE through NXT and could end up potentially being the next GM. Let's talk about it. We saw at the end of NXT TakeOver in your house that GM William Regal seemed to have lost control of the locker room and the confidence in himself and doing his ability. At the close of the show, Regal said, "I think it's time for a change," having referenced his 7-year control of NXT, and WWE hinting at someone else maybe having the job. They've done that in a few tweets. They've done that in a few articles on WWE.com. Dave Meltzer reported that Samoa Joe has taken a behind-the-scenes job with NXT, so he's back in WWE fold. He's probably making less money now, but he's under Triple H's umbrella. And this backstage role could also see him return as the GM. So, Trevor, would Samoa Joe as the GM in NXT work, you think?
You know what? If you'd have asked me that maybe 3-4 years ago, I think I would have said no. Now seeing him as a commentator and seeing him in that backseat role, I guess you would kind of say, you know what? I think it might work, actually. I think it's one of those things where, yeah, you like to see the man wrestle because, I mean, he's a hell of a wrestler, great talent inside the ring. I'd love to see Joe go again, but I think him as GM could work because honestly, I didn't think William Regal as GM would work honestly at first. But I mean, I thought Regal was perfect as GM. So yeah, I think this could work. I think this would kind of be fun to see, honestly.
Fun to watch, Mago. Yeah. So for me, I do think that. So they've obviously said that they want to go in a different direction here with the GM, maybe shake that up. We know that Samoa Joe hasn't been cleared to wrestle for a while, and and honestly, like that might also be the reason that he didn't end up signing a wrestling contract with someone else. That might be the thing. It's right. Very well possible that his career might be over, because he can't get cleared to wrestle, and so I think, him taking this backstage role is probably a good thing because it keeps him under that umbrella of WWE, gets him, and it puts him under Triple H's purview, which I think is probably more important. But Samoa Joe, I think, at GM, though, I think would bring a lot of legitimacy, much like it did with William Regal, to the NXT brand. And I like the kind of way that they're hinting at it with William Regal not being able to control the brawls. There were several brawls that broke out in your house this weekend. William Regal not being able to control the talent or whatever. Samoa Joe is someone who on screen is going to be able to control those brawls. Like that's someone, like that's the sheriff right there. That's someone who's going to be able to contain those people. He's someone who's going to be able to take care of all that kind of stuff. So I think this would be a great role for Samoa Joe to do. That being said, if this is a situation where, like, he can... here's the thing. If Samoa Joe could wrestle, I 100% believe he would be right now.
Right.
He's not... he's one of those guys, if he can go, he is going to go. The reason we haven't seen him wrestle, I'm 100% convinced at this point, is because, like, doctors just say you can't do it. And, it's... If that's the case, it's sad, but I'm glad he would be doing something around the business. Like that. Right. Seeing Samoa Joe on TV, regardless, is great.
Yeah, I think it's good for TV. It's good, like we always say every week. It's good for wrestling. I think it'll be entertaining to see him as that GM role. But I mean, again, it's just the piggyback on what you said. It's a shame if his career is over.
Yeah. My thing is, so if Samoa Joe comes in, right? Do you think we ever see him possibly feuding with talent? Like, if he ever gets cleared, like that could be a cool transition because that's kind of what happened to Daniel Bryan in 2018.
Yeah, it did, and then also happened with Shane McMahon. Which anyway,
no, don't do that. No, God. WrestleMania 42, Samoa Joe versus Shane McMahon. Shane goes over
with the Walker in hand. But no, like it's just one of those things. Like I think when you have someone like Samoa Joe or Daniel Bryan, that you could, that they can wrestle. Why not get a few rating boosts? People will pay good money to see Joe wrestle again, especially the likes of like Finn Balor. Could you imagine a night in a Samoa Joe match? That'd be great. That'd be a good match.
I go over. That would be great. That would be great. Let us know what you guys think about that potentially happening. LA Knight, I think, would be an amazing opponent for anyone. LA Knight for World Champ 2021.
Oh yeah, I'm with that. I could see. You know what's funny though? I could see that actually happening. I could see LA Knight because they've already bumped heads a couple of times, so I could see that happen.
I mean, look, he's somebody who I think he's someone who Vince would love, genuine, because this is a dude who can go out there, cut a promo, and I think he's also someone I think Vince would trust cutting a promo too. Weirdly, as weird as that is to say, because he doesn't trust people like Ambrose or other people. I think Vince, it's weird because Vince still trusts like people like John Cena to go out there. I think if Vince McMahon got his hands on LA Knight, it would actually work. As weird as that is to say, I don't even know why that really is. I just think I think he just needs to cut a promo for Vince, and Vince will be like, oh, I can make money with this guy. Just put him over.
Right. But honestly, I think he needs to stay on NXT. Stay on NXT.
That's what you think about everyone. That's what I think about everyone. That's what everyone should do. Stay on NXT. Never go to the main roster. Speaking of the main roster, though, Trevor, Hell in a Cell is going to be this weekend, and we have a card for the event, an official card that has been confirmed. Let's take a look at it. So the matches do include... Oh, sorry about that. We're going to...
Graphic.
Ah, man, I almost had it there. Let's do this one more time. So, Trevor, Hell in a Cell is this weekend, the pay-per-view where we're guaranteed at least 2 Hell in a Cell matches. It's a very quick card. Let's take a look at it. So we're going to have Alexa Bliss facing off against Shayna Baszler. And then from then on out, it's just championship matches. It's Rhea Ripley defending her Raw Women's Championship against Charlotte Flair. Bianca Belair defending her WWE SmackDown Women's World Championship against Bayley and Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre in a last chance Hell in a Cell match that if Drew McIntyre loses, he will not get another chance against Lashley for the world title. And finally, in what is likely to be our main event, Roman Reigns taking on Rey Mysterio in a Hell in a Cell match on Father's Day. So we'll get into the matches individually in a second. But Trevor, why don't you just give me your general impressions of the card as it stands?
It's got its strong points, but it's kind of weak. There's some matches that are kind of weak. I mean, I'm happy it's only 5 matches. That I'm impressed by. But it also makes me think that the Hell in a Cell matches are going to be like almost 2 hours long. So,
I mean, they've said it's just 3-hour pay-per-views from here on out. So that's not, I think, going to be a problem. I mean, the general problem I have with Hell in a Cell as a pay-per-view concept, is the fact that it shouldn't happen. Hell in a Cell, as a pay-per-view, this is, I know what it is. It's WWE, Hell in a Cell, and that's fine. Okay, they have TLC, they have Hell in a Cell, they have Elimination Chamber, they have, and they don't have a great marketing department apparently, because they can't come up with any better names. Regardless of that, right? One thing that I do like about this card is that it features predominantly championship matches, world championship matches. You got you got the women's world championship matches. You have the Universal and WWE titles on the line at this pay-per-view. So what we're seeing is the the things that are supposed to be in the forefront are on the line at this pay-per-view, and I think that's a good thing. The one thing that I don't think is going to be good, and unfortunate as it is the Alexa Bliss Shayna Baszler match. And
Don't think you're good at all.
we've talked about this, right? We've talked about the whole Alexa Bliss Shayna Baszler thing, where Alexa Bliss and the doll essentially entrapped Shayna Baszler some way in this terrible segment on Raw. By the way, Raw's numbers, did you see this? Raw's numbers were down to 1.7 million.
Shocking.
Yeah, so they lost 100,000 viewers from last week. I wonder why. But yeah, so they set up this match between Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler as a challenge to Alexa Bliss, and it's just this is just gonna be shenanigans. I just see shenanigans written all over this match.
I mean, if you're gonna have this match, make it like a stipulation match. Make it something interesting, you know. But
Of all the things to put in Hell in a Cell, why not this? Just make it goofy
That's
over
what I'm
the
saying.
top. Put
Like-
it, but dude, they made the cell red. It's like perfect for Alexa Bliss and this terrible gimmick that they have her doing. It's amazing. Like it's just all in on the terribleness.
I'll tell you a match that I'm not really looking forward to though, and it's probably because they're not. They did the story to it was kind of awful. The women's championship match for Raw. I'm not really looking forward to that.
Yeah, so let's go to that next. So Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, who's a champion, have been involved in the feud to literally see who's the more obnoxious person. It's
a tie.
It doesn't like look, I love both of them. They're world-class performers. That being said, I don't care. Nobody cares.
No one cares.
There's not a single soul who's been watching Raw. End the sentence right there. There's not a single soul who's been watching Raw. But there's no one who's been watching Raw that is like, oh, this is what I'm looking forward to the most on this show. Like, it's very bland. They don't really do much other than cut not good promos on each other, and which is kind of sad because Charlotte Flair is actually a good promo when she's allowed to be. But this match does nothing for me. Are they going to go out there and probably have a good match? Yeah, because they're world-class performers. But again, I'm not interested.
Yeah, it's at this point, dude. I don't care. Since Charlotte Flair has been back, she's been completely and utterly obnoxious. I mean, that's not much of a change, but she has been. And that's not to say that I think she's a terrible wrestler, because I don't think she's a terrible wrestler. I think the way they're taking her character, I think they're ruining it. Honestly, I think they're taking the Charlotte Flair character, and they're like pretty much pissing on it at this point, because I find her absolutely obnoxious right now. Like, I mean, before she was annoying, but now you just want her to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? And I can't care less about her and Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, it's not great, but I mean, at the end of the day, I do think, and we'll get to our predictions for in a minute, like at the end for all of these matches. But in the end, I do think they might actually put the belt on Flair. They might actually end up putting the belt on her here just to have it on there for SummerSlam. But because you want to have a heel champion, I think, and we'll get to talking about heel champions in WWE, because oh boy, are there a lot. But you want to have a strong heel champion, I think, going into SummerSlam to hopefully have a face beat them for it. But we'll see what happens there. Trevor, in a match that I think you and I are looking forward to is a rematch from WWE Backlash. It's going to be Bianca Belair versus Bayley. And yeah, I think this is going to be a good match.
I think it's going to be a good one too. I mean, now, I don't think, again, we'll talk about predictions later, but I don't think she's going to lose the championship. But I honestly think it's going to be a hell of a match, though. I think it's going to be a hell of a match. They had a great match before. I think this is just another build-up. But I honestly think after this, Bianca needs to wrestle someone else. You need to showcase Bianca with other talent after this, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a surprise in my prediction that might change things, but I like this feud. I actually do like the feud because it's the entire time it's been Bayley being a very cocky, obnoxious heel, which I think is a good thing to do. You know, one person be obnoxious, and then Bianca Belair be the amiable babyface who everyone likes and who everyone wants to like. Wrestling isn't hard. It's simple. It's effective. I like it. I'm interested. And these are two amazing athletes who I actually want to see being showcased. So, perfect combination there. WWE. Not that hard. Just keep going with it. Let's get to our men's championship matches now. We have Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre in a last chance Hell in a Cell match. If Drew loses, he will not get another title shot against Bobby Lashley for the title. So a lot on the line for Drew McIntyre here. They had Drew McIntyre pin Bobby Lashley on Raw in a tag team match just this past Monday, so they're putting over the effectiveness of the Claymore kick. You know, going into their match at WrestleMania, one of the things that Drew McIntyre really emphasized was the fact that I'm gonna hit you with the Claymore, and then I'm gonna become WWE champion. Like that. That's my Drew McIntyre. But that's like what they were building for the longest time, was the danger of the Claymore kick to Bobby Lashley. It's the first time we've seen it be effective, because it's really the first time he's hit it on him during this run. So, you know, I think it's an interesting story. But what do you think, Trevor?
So, I never thought I'd say that WWE has made me completely uninterested in seeing Drew McIntyre wrestle, but
WWE has made you completely uninterested in Drew McIntyre wrestle.
They have, and the thing is, it's not because Drew is a terrible wrestler, because we've rant and raved about how good he is and how he's taken WWE through the hardest time possible and put the company on his back. Like, it's not Drew. Drew, if you're watching this, do not squash me. It has nothing to do with you, but like. I've seen the same fucking match with Drew McIntyre every fucking week. Like, I feel like they're making, like, Drew has to fight for a number one contender match like every 2 weeks. Like, yeah. It's just, come on, and it's always the same people too. It's never anyone else. It's always the same people, and like it's just getting old, man. It's just getting old, and it's just getting stale, and it's a damn shame, because he's probably the most talented wrestler on your roster. And as far as Raw is concerned, and you're making people tired of him, and I think it's just damn shame.
Yeah, and look, the last chance thing, I like the fact that they put it in there, because, you know, WWE, it adds something to it. But do we expect WWE to really hold on to that stipulation? Probably not. But finally, let's get to it on Father's Day. On Father's Day, in the main event of Hell in a Cell, Roman Reigns is going to crush the dreams of Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio by squashing Rey Mysterio in what will likely be the shortest Hell in a Cell match in WWE history. That's my prediction for this match, by the way. And he will throw Dominic Mysterio off the cell. It will be a terrible Father's Day. He's going to he's going to destroy Rey Mysterio in the cell, throw Dominic off the cell. They're going to the father and son are going to spend Father's Day night in the hospital. It's going to be a bloodbath, and the tribal chief, acknowledge him, Trevor, will wind up on top. What do you think of this match, Trevor?
I think, but you know what, Rey Mysterio has had some very entertaining matches, especially with people bigger than him, you know? So this could be a very good match. Very good match. I mean, he's going to get squashed like a bug at the end of things, but it's going to be I think it could be a very good match. And it's just an interesting scenario, put him in the first place. Like, how did this match even come about? Yeah, I mean, if you haven't been paying attention, how would this match even come about? It's interesting. I guess they, decided to put Roman in there with a vet and see how it works. So we'll see.
See, for me, I think they didn't even have to do this match, to be honest, because I don't want to see Roman Reigns wrestle at this pay-per-view. If you want me to be honest, Roman Reigns shouldn't wrestle now until SummerSlam. He should not defend his title until SummerSlam. Like, the whole the champion needs to defend the title every month thing is contrived and untrue, because look at Brock Lesnar doesn't defend the belt when he's champion. And so that doesn't even matter anymore. For me, if you want to put Roman over as the next big guy, have him only wrestle for primetime matches. Like, I love Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio versus Roman Reigns at Hell in a Cell is not a primetime match that I would have Roman wrestle in. You could do the same thing you're going to do, because the whole thing is they want to get over this faction that Roman Reigns is building with the Usos. You could do a match with the Usos and Rey Mysterio for the tag team belts, which they're going to do eventually, and have that in Hell in a Cell, and then have the same thing happen. Roman Reigns interferes, he beats up Rey Mysterio, and he throws Dominic Mysterio off the cell. I'm telling you, that bump is happening. That bump is 100% happening.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen, but it's it's one of those things. I don't like to see Roman Reigns, at the wrestling here, because it's just a waste of a championship match, and honestly a waste of a slot on this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree. You could have put some other lower profile, some other match.
Although they don't even know what they're doing with the Intercontinental Championship anymore, because Aleister Black just got cut. That whole feud is out the window. So who knows? Who knows what they're gonna do? Anyway, Trevor, Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio. Who wins and why?
Roman Reigns, because he's a tribal chief. 1 and 2. It's just.
Thank you for acknowledging.
And 2, I mean, right now, Rey Mysterio, losing to Rey Mysterio would totally mess up his momentum at this point. So no, I mean, saying that.
I can't believe I'm saying this, dude. I think WWE fans would riot if Rey Mysterio won the championship off of Roman Reigns.
At this point, yeah. Like I said, I think it would mess up his momentum. Honestly,
so many people would be in the streets, like fucking burning buildings down. I'm not advocating that, by the way, but that would happen if Rey Mysterio.
I'm happy Rey has a belt. I am. I'm happy he has the championship go. I am.
No, yeah. In all seriousness,
I just don't think it makes sense for him to win the championship.
Yeah, in all seriousness, there's zero chance of that happening. Bianca Belair versus Bayley. I think. So I have an interesting prediction here, but you go first.
Honestly, I said earlier that Bianca should win the belt. Should keep the belt. I honestly think Bayley's gonna win, though. I have a sneaking suspicion that Bayley's gonna win.
I think so too. I think Bayley should win. And you should have her win by cheating in the worst way possible, so Bianca can come out there and just I want to, you know what I want to see? I want to see Bianca Belair in a position where she's kind of forced to get a little bit of an edge, right? Because she herself in this character she plays is pretty great, because it's not a character, it's her, right? She's a very nice, amiable, happy-go-lucky baby face, and it works for her, and it doesn't work for everybody, so that's a good thing in her favor. But for her to have staying power, you got to have that little bit of an edge, and I think that's something I want to see out of Bianca Belair, get that next step. So put her in that position where, my God, Bayley cheated to win. Now I got to be on my A game and do it again. Have it happen again at whatever B pay-per-view is next. I think it's Money in the Bank. Have that happen again. And then at SummerSlam, have Bianca Belair and Bayley in a hardcore match or something, and then just put out all the stops and show this mean streak to Bianca Belair. Yes, because you know why? Because it worked when they did it with Becky Lynch.
Sure did.
And look at her now. And I'm not saying it's not gonna be the same, right? But there's basic tenets that you can follow that can lead to her getting even more over. And build to her overall character. So that's what I want to see. Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. Charlotte. Bobby versus Drew McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell. If Drew loses, he will not get another title shot.
So I have a thought about this match.
Okay.
So, I think Bobby wins, right? Bobby wins. What's coming up soon? The WWE draft.
Right? I think the WWE draft. Yes, sir.
So what happens if Bobby wins? Drew can't challenge for the belt anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
They draft him to Raw. SmackDown. And you start a feud with Roman Reigns. Not right away, but you start a feud with Roman Reigns. I think that would be a very good program to watch.
And then have Roman be, or have Bobby be the guy to take the belt off of Roman eventually. That could be interesting.
Exactly.
That could be very yeah. Yeah, that's not bad booking. I'm gonna go in like a similar thing, a similar way of thought, but I'm gonna go in like a bit of a different direction here. So what do we have coming up? When you said that, I originally thought you were talking about Money in the Bank, but I like that you went with the draft, so it's different. For me,
Right.
it's what's next, Money in the Bank.
Yeah,
So
that's a good one too.
look, Drew loses this match. I think we both agree in that. You don't take the belt off of Bobby right now, but Drew loses this match. He doesn't have another chance to challenge for Bobby Lashley's title. So how does he get another chance to challenge for Bobby Lashley's title? He wins Money in the Bank next month, and then that automatically gives him a world title match against whoever he wants. So he can. True. So that gives him another rematch opportunity against Bobby Lashley, and I think that would actually be a fine out. That like if you want to find a way out, like I think that's kind of what you go for, because like you set it up so that Drew wins the Money in the Bank.
Right.
And is in a position where he has to win. This is his only chance to ever regain the title that he wants to hold up in front of fans, right? Like I think that's a good story to tell. So that's where I think this, or that's where I hope this goes. Where it will go, whoever writing's Raw is gonna determine, and that's not a good sign.
With the hat on it, yeah, that's right, Raw.
Speaking of the cat in the hat who's writing Raw, Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler. Prediction.
Who cares? Alexa, unfortunately.
The doll wins, Trevor.
Yeah,
the doll always wins. Let's move on. All right. So this is something interesting that I've wanted to talk to you with. I wanted to talk with you about for a while now, Trevor, and that is WWE heels. Noni. So if you've been paying attention to WWE as of late, you will have noticed a trend. WWE loves heel champions. If you look across the WWE extended universe and all their brands, you will see that all the male world champions or brand champions are currently heels. You got Roman Reigns, who's the Universal Champion on SmackDown, Bobby Lashley, who's the Raw WWE Champion, Karrion Kross, who's on NXT, and he is the NXT Champion, as well as Walter. If you go to NXT UK, he's the NXT UK Champion. So all the dominant, like, main brand champions are all heels. So that's kind of got us thinking, does WWE have a problem with heel champions? Do they have too many right now in the main event spot on all their brands, and not in any baby faces in this spot? And is that a problem?
I think it can be a problem, but honestly, I give them credit where credit's due when they deserve it. And I think they've done this actually very well as far as the heel champions. I think they've done the heel champion thing run very well, honestly. Who would deny the fact that Walter is amazing, and Walter deserves to have a belt around his
Hell
waist.
Yeah, bro.
In Roman Reigns, I'm sorry, this is the best I've seen Roman Reigns in a very long time. Like, Roman doesn't, in my opinion, Roman never needs to be a face ever again. In my opinion,
he will be eventually. He will naturally become a baby face because the fans will love him.
Right, because he was such a phenomenal heel. But honestly, I don't see it being a problem. I don't see it hindering anything. The only heel champion that I am bothered by, and this is the one we talked about earlier, is Karrion Kross.
And
why
is that?
Well, one, he looks unbeatable. You know what I mean? And that's fine, especially since he is a heel. But it makes, like we said earlier, it makes boring championship matches. Like, I mean, you go to see the talent he's fighting against. This is going to be a good match. He gets in, he squashes him. You're like, well, it's not worth watching, And what direction are they going with now? Since he fought pretty much 5 of the top talent on NXT and squashed them all. Like, what exactly are you going for here? So to me, he's probably the worst heel champion. Not saying he's bad, but he's probably the worst heel champion in that group.
Right, and for me, it isn't about a specific wrestler, right? So
Right.
I think you have to have, dominant heel champions, right, to get to dominant face champions, to dominant good guys. The issue I have with WWE and the male world champions they have Bianca Belair who's a face and she's a women's world champion on SmackDown.
Right.
But the problem I have with these guys here is that it shows that WWE across all their brands are all thinking and doing the same thing, and I don't think that's good because
Right.
the entire reason for having different brands is that, okay, if you don't like Raw, well, WWE has SmackDown, and you can keep up with what SmackDown's doing, and it might be different, and that might draw you into it. Or if you don't like NXT, look at what NXT UK, or like that's the whole reason you have different brands to
Right.
bring in people. But when you're doing the same thing, when you're just building unbeatable dominant champions, heel champions on every show, everything kind of becomes the same, and you're telling the same stories. You're having similar matches. You're having similar feuds, and you're kind of left wondering what's the redeemable qualities of any of these shows if the bad guys are always going to win, right? And that's only part of it, but I think it's time to have a little bit of parity. It's time to have a little bit of diversity in the end goals and the planning and the booking of these people, because look at all these guys here, great athletes, great performers. I'm not saying they don't deserve to be champions at all. I'm just saying to have all of them be as dominant as they are, as big as they are, as heelish as they are, it just shows that WWE, I think, is just thinking the same thing, and they're lacking a bit of diversity as far as the ideas that are coming out of the booking committees. And I don't think that shows a good thing, because you want to have different things. Like, look, my thing is, if I'm WWE, NXT UK and NXT shouldn't be having the same dominant storylines.
Right.
That Raw and SmackDown shouldn't be having the same dominant storylines. But what are we seeing? Oh, the Hurt Business dominating on Raw, the Samoan Dynasty, whatever, was dominating on SmackDown. Roman Reigns group. What are we seeing in NXT UK and NXT? Karrion Kross dominating. Walter having an 800-day NXT UK title streak, which is amazing. Walter did it first before any of these guys, but. It gets to a point where you're just like, what are they doing different? And why should I watch all these different programs if I'm just getting the same, main event storylines out of everything?
Exactly. And I totally agree. Like, I mean, that's part of what I was saying with Karrion Kross. Like, it's in just in general, it's just the same thing. You're seeing the same thing, and it's getting boring.
Yeah. And look, it's one of those things. Like Walter, man, I don't know what they're doing. Look, this is just a side. Everyone knows how I feel about Walter. He's the greatest, greatest ever. He should be. Who takes the, who takes the world championship, the Universal Championship off Roman Reigns? Fucking Walter. Do it. Do a double. Do a little bit of a double turn right there. Like Walter. I want Walter to be a Universal Champion for 1,000 days.
But that's another
2,000 days. 3,000 days. 4,000. 20 years of Walter is what I want on WWE. I think Walter will carry that company for the next
who is beating Walter right now? Nobody.
800. He's been champion for 800 days. Over 2 years, 2.5 years. He's been champion. Think about that.
In UK, in NXT UK has good talent too, but he's just that dominant.
I'm telling you, man. We said it before. Bring in Grado in NXT UK.
I was just about to say that. Bring Grado.
Dude. I don't even care. I won't be mad if they stole my idea. Bring in Grado. Have him get his ass kicked by Walter multiple times, and then eventually have him beat Walter in the main event of NXT UK Omania,
right?
And then have Walter walk into the main roster and get jobbed out to Keith Lee on Superstars or something. Which, okay, don't do that. No, keep Walter. Walter, go to AEW.
Exactly. Yeah,
no, but no, I think Walter. I think Walter's one of those guys who will not fail, no matter he's amazing. In case you guys don't know, we love Walter. Let's move on. Before we do, though, remember, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. We got daily videos, clips of these episodes. Real Take Sports Talk on Thursdays, which you're going to start next week. Real Take Wrestle Talk every Tuesday night. Stay updated. Follow us at Real Take Sports. Continuing our show now, Trevor, could we see Bobby Lashley versus the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar, at SummerSlam? According to Bobby Lashley, I think Bobby Lashley has been stirring the pot between himself and Brock Lesnar. So let's take a listen. Bobby Lashley recently spoke to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, where Lashley talked about facing Brock Lesnar once again. And he said anytime he comes back, it was to get the title. Anytime he has come back, it was to get the title. Every other champ he's been in the ring with, except for me, it's been the case. So if he ever wants his title back, instead of doing what he's doing now, the math is right. It's not like I'm running from him. So Lashley kind of teasing the fans a little bit, teasing Pro Wrestling Illustrated a little bit by saying that if Lesnar wants it, he can come get it. Do we think this will end up happening, Trevor? And, given what Brock Lesnar's contract status is with WWE, being that he doesn't have one.
Right. It'd be something interesting to see because they've never wrestled, have they? I don't think they have.
They might have done something. They might have when Lashley returned, but nothing like big, nothing notable.
I always thought that was a match that I always wanted to see in their prime, like both wrestlers in their prime. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen. But it would be interesting to watch. You know what I mean? It'll be an interesting match to watch. But I know I stumbled on my words. Anyway,
fun to watch, Michael.
Fun to watch. But no, it would be interesting to watch the fact that they have never wrestled, and like the two of the bigger athletes in WWE. It'd be interesting to watch. But nah, it's not gonna happen. I mean, the fact that he doesn't have a contract, to me, is part of the bigger reasons why it won't happen.
The thing is, I think Vince would have to give a lot of money to Lesnar, like even more than he's ever given to Lesnar to get him back. But I think Vince is also willing to dish out that money. Lesnar's the guy you do it for, right? That's been like Vince's guy, his go-to guy when business is bad, whatever. Whatever happens, no matter what, Brock Lesnar is his saving grace, much like Andre the Giant was early on, much like Hulk Hogan became, much like that. That's his big attraction that he wants. So, yep. I could see. My thing is, I could see Lesnar agreeing to a contract soon, very quickly. Like things have developed if Vince just pulls the trigger on it. But as far as these two wrestling, I do think that it's going to be interesting. And the bigger question I have is, who should win the match? Because when you look at these guys, everyone Brock Lesnar is kind of, he's been in his prime or he's been in this main event spot for such a long time, and he's older. People want to say Bobby Lashley's actually older than Brock Lesnar, which makes things interesting. So for me, it's one of those things who actually goes over here and who should. I mean, you could say Lashley easily, in my opinion, because he's been in the main event spotlight less. But what do you think? Who should win?
I agree. I believe Bobby should go over. Bobby should go over. Bobby should win the match, only because of the fact that he has been in the spotlight more. And honestly, he could be closer to the end of his career than Lesnar could, even though Lesnar has had a lot of injuries, and a few medical problems that he plagued him in UFC. But I mean, to me, it makes logical sense to push Bobby over at this point, if there was a match to happen.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, I could very easily see Vince. God damn it, pal! I signed him to all this money, and then putting Brock over, and then eat, sleep, conquer, repeat. Paul Heyman, man. Double payday Paul Heyman. Triple payday Paul Heyman. Getting paid for Raw, SmackDown, and writing both shows. Wow. So that's who to blame.
It's your fault.
It wasn't my fault. Yes, it was, Paul. But this will be interesting. We'll keep you guys updated on that. And to stay updated, make sure you follow us at Real Take Sports. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you get notified for all of our daily videos. Moving on, Trevor, let's talk about Triple H, or as WWE tried to get him over back in 1996. Try. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
So, JR. So we'll get to this in a second, but
or terrorizing.
Terrorizing. Jesus. Oh my God. You just brought things way back. But in 96, they were trying to get Hunter. He was going by Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and they were trying to shorten that down. So originally the idea was to call him Try. And it's kind of funny because Triple H just happens to ride a tricycle down the ramp at every WrestleMania. But it was so funny when you watch those back and you just hear like JR being like, "Oh, I don't like what Try just said." Like it's like Try. What the fuck is Try? Like Triple H is just so much better.
Shit.
Anyway, but Triple H said that WWE had the best female performers in the world. Is that true? Let's talk about it. Last week on a media call for NXT Takeover, Triple H was asked about whether there was plans to have another women's only pay-per-view like Evolution. He said no. He was later asked his thoughts about Mickie James telling the best women's wrestlers to come wrestle in NWA regardless of their contractual status. And to that, he responded by saying, "Yeah, if you want to wrestle the best women in the world, come to WWE. That's where they are. If you want to go elsewhere and say that there are, that's an opinion. You can, but it is what it is. I'm all for it. I was one of the big drivers of it. We will do another all women's event down the line, possibly, but he went on to say, it's probably not going to happen. That's not in the plans right now. He went on, and he ended by saying, but I think we do a pretty good job of it. And in my opinion, the best female performers in the world are in WWE. And if they're not, they want to be. And that triggered a reaction from a lot of people. Thunder Rosa actually said the best. She said in a tweet, to paraphrase, that the best women wrestlers are not in any one company. They're spread out all across the world. We saw Britt Baker, who tweeted a picture of her and Thunder Rosa, and just that's all she posted in response to that report. Triple H saying that. And the biggest heel in the world, Tony Khan, responded to Triple H's comments in a very interesting fashion. He said, he said on Triple H's comments, "I think we already had, and in my opinion, the best roster in wrestling." He's talking about AEW having the best roster in wrestling. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Look, everybody's building their own roster. They're going to have feelings about people they work with. I don't think that there is anything wrong with saying that you think you have the best show and the best company. I think people get offended and got offended at Triple H when he said that everybody wants to work there. And he went on to say that people are apparently confusing the two things. And, if you want to say that, hey, my show is the best and I think our product's the best, that's one thing. But if you go on to say that everybody wants to work here, even though that's not the case, and he mentioned Britt Baker, DMD, she made it pretty clear that she didn't want to work in WWE. She has no plans to do that. So that's gotten a lot of people talking. So that was a lot of information, I know. But Trevor, the basic gist of it is that the problem seemed to be is Triple H said that WWE has the best female performers in the world, and that everybody, and if they're not there, they want to come there, and that's what a lot of people took umbrage with. So what do you think about the comments and the backlash that he's received on these comments?
Again, it is opinionated. It is. It's all based on opinion. I mean, this is your company. Of course, that's what you're going to think. You're going to think that you have the best talent. You're going to think, the best talent want to come to your company. That's what you're going to think. It makes sense to think so. But I honestly believe that is not a true statement. I kind of agree with Thunder Rosa that there are amazing women's talents all over the world, like in a bunch of different promotions, and I don't think one promotion has more talented women than the other. It could be argued that Jordan Grace is one of the better women wrestlers. So she's wrestling for Impact. It could be said that Eva Lise is an amazing wrestler. And she's in an independent circuit right now. Like, so there's two amazing women wrestlers that don't wrestle on NXT or WWE. So like that's
Ty
right
Conti,
Ty
DMD,
Conti.
Nyla Rose.
I mean, even though Ty Conti was once with WWE, but she wasn't as good then as she is now.
Hikaru Shida. You can just list names.
Just name them off. But I mean, that doesn't mean that WWE doesn't have the talent, because I think they do.
Yeah, they have. Like, if you ask me, like, what one company has the most proven, like female wrestlers right now, I think you could say WWE, and again, it's an opinion, right? But you could say WWE, because look at who they have. They have Sasha Banks, who I think is the best all-around performer. You have the most arguably the most over person in wrestling in Becky Lynch. They have Charlotte, who is great at what she does. And they have Rhea Ripley, Asuka. Like that's an amazing roster, and it very well might be the best in the world. And I'm not
very underutilized Toni Storm, who is arguably one of the best wrestlers in the UK.
Exactly. So and that's the thing. My specific problem is not with the fact that he wants to say that they have the best wrestlers in the world. That's fine. I'm actually taking a book out of Tony Khan's page here. The problem is when you say that people want to work there. And you put this out as this like, everyone wants to work for WWE, when it's not true. It's just not true, because there's people who bust their ass for AEW. There's people who bust their ass for NWA. There's people who bust their ass on the independent circuit for GCW. There's women who do this all around the world.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go to WWE. Everyone knows the stigma against going to WWE. There are people who fall with that stigma, who appeal to that and don't want to work for that company because they've seen the way people get treated. Like, Asuka is the perfect example of someone who, like, do you want to end up like Asuka if you go to the WWE main roster? No. Yes, she's had a bunch of world title reigns, but they killed her entire gimmick for no reason when it was at its highest peak, and then they've done it repeatedly afterwards. And I do think that stigma against officials, that stigma against the WWE it sticks for a lot of people, and it's not one of those things where it's not it's not 2008 anymore. It's not 2010. Right. Not everyone's clamoring to go to the Fed anymore. Like, there's so many other options out there. MLW is another option. Like, there's so many other places to showcase your talents and to be the person, to be the main event. It's not WWE anymore. And for Triple H to say so, it's, again, part of it, I think, is just towing the company line. But the other part, I think it's also a bit delusional to say that, especially on a media call. Like, when everyone else on that call knew that what he said was bullshit.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's just, again, have confidence in your product. Have confidence that you are one of the top companies and people want to come in. Have that. That is nothing wrong with that. But don't make a bold statement like that, like everyone wants to come there when you know that not that many people want to come there. I mean, you mentioned what they did with Asuka. Like, if they did that with a male, what do you think they're gonna do with females? Like, they did it with Dusty Rhodes. Like, it's
Jon Moxley's never going back to WWE.
Hell no. He said he wasn't. He said in the interview he's never going back. He doesn't need to. Cody Rhodes will never step foot in a WWE ring ever, and he doesn't need to. But it's just it's just things like that. I mean, yeah, have confidence, but don't be delusional.
Yep, agreed. Anyway, that was a nice little segment there. That was a nice little fuck WWE segment right there. See, we get our weekly FWWE every week. we
have fun here.
We left a troll on Tuesday nights, Trevor. Oh man. Anyway, as I'm setting up stuff for the next topic, guys, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. We got daily videos about a lot of different topics, including wrestling. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Follow us on Twitter at Real Take Sports. Got a lot of fun stuff in the plans, hopefully. So be sure to check that out. We will not be doing, just so everyone knows, not doing a stream this weekend for Hell in a Cell, unfortunately. But we'll have some more stream fun, hopefully, for Money in the Bank. Hopefully I'll be free that weekend. But regardless, Trevor, let's talk about some ticket sales. So, are you ready to talk about it? You ready to talk about it? Let's talk about the ticket sales, man. Have you bought any tickets for wrestling events yet?
No, actually, I was looking into the AEW event that's coming soon.
The one in Newark.
The one in Newark. Yeah, I was thinking about that one. Yeah, but
yeah, let's go. No, we should go to the one in Philly and stay with Ryan.
Yes,
let's take Ryan. Let's take Ryan to. Actually, that's a great thing. That's a great
idea. Actually,
we should take. I promise you, Ryan would have a hell. That's one thing that would get Ryan into wrestling. Going to an AEW event. We're gonna get Ryan in. Okay, we'll talk about that. Anyway, so
I was actually looking for some indie promotions coming up soon. Looking for some indie wrestling soon as well. But
MCW is coming back.
That's right.
Come up to Michael's 8th Avenue, man. Come up to Michael's 8th Avenue, and we'll watch some garbage wrestling. We might be able to even get some interviews. I
might be able to take you to a death match sometime soon.
Oh dear. I'm gonna bring my blood poncho. All right. I'm sorry for stalling. Let's talk about it. AEW is apparently selling tickets faster in WWE in some markets. So WWE and AEW are set to go back on the road next month. AEW's first show outside of Jacksonville is scheduled for July 7th in Miami, while the WWE first main roster event is going to be a July 16th edition of Friday Night SmackDown. Both companies plan to remain on the road for the foreseeable future. Basically, no more pandemic shows, so that's a good thing. WWE's resumption of the tour could be a bad sign, though, for the company, as Dave Meltzer reported that the company's ticket sales are scary bad in some markets and below AEW as far as the pre-sale basis. WWE has sold 2,000 tickets so far in a lot of the venues they're running, and they're running venues that have at least like 10,000 places, seats, so that's not a good sign for those places. Both WWE and AEW are running Charlotte, North Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida, Dallas, Texas, and Miami, Florida markets. WWE is performing well in the Dallas market, which is expected, but AEW is actually ahead of them in Charlotte and Miami. Neither company seems to be doing too well in markets outside of that, but AEW is currently also ahead in Jacksonville, which I think we all expect because that's their home base. It's also worth to note that under the circumstances, AEW are obviously running some smaller arenas as far as capacity than WWE, but it's all proportional. So proportionally, AEW is actually outselling WWE, and in some cases, actually selling more tickets altogether. But again, this is a scary sign for WWE. We saw this before the pandemic. We saw a lot of scary Raws where they had a 10,000 seat arena where they only sold 5,000 tickets. It was before the pandemic that was the case. So why do we think we're seeing it happen, and should WWE be concerned?
From what I remember, it could be just the fact that the tickets are too expensive. Honestly, it may not be like the product or anything like that. It might just be that the tickets are too expensive, which makes sense. But I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, it's one of those things where, yes, WWE is the dominant company. It should be because they've been around longer. But AEW is just so nuanced right now. It's like the flavor of the week. You know what I mean? And more people are starting to check it out, and they're starting to get more interested in it because I think you said this once before, maybe last week. It has that indie promotion feel with a pro promotion. You know what I'm saying? It feels like
it's the king. I think what I said was it was the king of the indies. and it's
Exactly.
showcasing but it's showcasing it on the biggest stage.
Exactly. It's a pro promotion with an indie feel, and that's for true wrestling fans. That sells it. Like I know a lot of wrestling fans that watch WWE, but mainly are indie watchers. That's all they watch. That's all they indie chase. They go to different indie shows and stuff like that, and will never buy a ticket to a WWE main event. I mean, because that's just what they don't do. But I mean, it could be a sign of something scary, but I say keep an eye on it. I don't know. I don't believe it's the end of time. You know what I mean? I think it's just we're coming out of a pandemic. You know what I mean? I think it's just that, honestly.
Yeah. So generally for both shows, like I think there's going to be some like, you know, maybe a period of time where ticket sales are low, just because we're trying to get back into the groove of things. I do think things like, you know, not so much SummerSlam because they're trying to sell out like a stadium, but you know, All Out for AEW, whenever tickets go on sale for All Out, that's going to sell out fairly quickly. The Chicago market's pretty good for them. As far as the other markets though go, I do think for the time being, like WWE should be concerned. Like WWE, I think, because here's the thing: this was a problem for them before the pandemic. This is not like, you know, oh well, the pandemic happened. Like yeah, sure, let's give it a few months. But if WWE are still like tarping off multiple sections for Raw and tarping off multiple sections for pay-per-views like they were in 2019, this was a big thing. Remember, they did a pay-per-view with Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins in the main event. They did a pay-per-view match,
did, yeah.
and there were 4,000 people there. And that is not a good sign for them. So I think that WWE, like they need to be careful. Like if there's any company that needs to be careful, it's WWE. I think AEW, they have the benefit of being that new product, like you said. They have the benefit of being of those crowds. I think are just gonna make those AEW shows more attractive. Like those fans are gonna be like, wow, look at these crowds. I want to be a part of this because AEW crowds are insane and the talent is insane and it's new and it's fresh and you haven't seen it. Like there's only so many times you can go see Brock Lesnar and pay money to see Brock Lesnar, but maybe some people want to go pay money to see Darby Allin. Maybe some people want to go see Kenny Omega, who they've never seen wrestle live. So they offer a lot more in that respect.
You know?
A lot of draw power. And other than that, I think for AEW, one thing that they should focus on more, though, is kind of being that more, you know, sending a more like attractive vibe to the fans. But, you know, what do you think WWE specifically can do to create a higher demand for their product?
Well, I think one, make more matches that people want to see. You know what I mean? Like we were talking about the Hell in a Cell card earlier, and honestly, out of that card, we really cared about maybe 2 matches. You know what I mean? Like you can't have a card with 5 matches and like 2 of those 5 people want to come see. You know, and I also think it is due to booking. It's also due to the product they show on TV. Like if this product, if I'm gonna pay money to see this product, it's got to be better than this. You know, like now, I think the ticket sales for SmackDown will probably be astronomical. You know, once SmackDown starts touring and things, but I don't know. Like, I think the fact that Raw is tanking so bad, and the fact that NXT is kind of putting out pay-per-views, is what we were talking about earlier. I think the fact that their product isn't top notch like it was before is failing them a little bit. So I think they need to step up their matches. Step up what has brought you to the big show. You know what I mean?
But by step up what brought you to the big show, do you mean like signing the big show and having him turn heel again?
I hope not. God, I hope.
Could you imagine? It's like,
first off, don't put terrible words in my mouth.
It's like what's gonna save wrestling in 2021? Well, another heel turn. Don't do it, please.
Don't do
for
it
God's sakes. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see what these ticket sales are like. I do know this. If AEW you ever run the Baltimore DC market, I'm going. I mean, it's not even a question. It's happening.
Yeah. I went to the last one. I'm definitely going again.
Hopefully no one chucks a hot dog at that show. You got to bring the dewdrop hot dogs. All right, so let's keep it going, and let's actually stick with AEW here. Here we go. This is an interesting story. Could AEW be signing Tommy End, a.k.a. Aleister Black? So, after surprisingly getting released by WWE, Aleister Black reportedly could be signing with All Elite Wrestling. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter said that there is a strong belief that Black will end up signing with AEW once his 90-day no-compete is up. Should that happen, the AEW All Out pay-per-view is probably the best kind of time for that. We know that Turner does not want them having big surprise debuts on TV. Dave Meltzer also added a caveat, however, that while there also been talks in WWE that perhaps Aleister Black may have been prematurely released, and maybe they might offer him a lower price deal to return to the company. So let's stick with the first idea first. If Aleister Black, or Tommy End, as he's been known for a long time, ends up going to AEW, what are some potential feuds you could see for him there?
One off the bat, Darby Allin. I think their personalities and their skills would mesh very well. You want to put him in a ring with someone else kind of skilled. I think another good one would probably be, you know what? I mean, that'd be a weird match, but you could even potentially put him with Orange Cassidy, but I wouldn't put him there right away. I'll probably put him with Pac. I think him and Pac would draw some heat. I think that'd be a good match.
That'd be interesting because I feel like they're very similar kind of, general wrestling characters. These right. Like tough brutes, very silent, even though both of them can cut promos, they don't need to, kind of thing, I actually like that dynamic. See, for me, it also is one of those things like, does his dark character kind of fit what AEW does, though? Because we know that AEW, as opposed to WWE is more sports entertainment, so that kind of dark, mystical character works there, or that's something that you would think is more appealing to that kind of fan base. With AEW, it's more of, they like to brand themselves more of a sports type feel, and that's what generally AEW has been. But what do you think about this balancing that sports type feel with AEW and his kind of like dark mystical character that he likes to do?
I think he slightly changes it, not completely, but I think in AEW come more off as like a punk rock star. You know what I mean? It won't be quite as dark and mystical. I think it will come more like if it's like a old rocker or something like that. And he'll still have that machismo and still have that flair, but I think they slightly change it.
Yeah, that's interesting too, and it's like AEW has also proven that they're not like exclusively like, oh, everything has to be serious. Like they have a dinosaur on TV, Luchasaurus. Exactly. Like they have Matt Hardy, and then they did the whole broken Matt Hardy thing with him. So they can go into that, and I don't think that's something that's going to like stop them from signing Aleister Black. If Aleister Black, Tommy End, whatever you want to call him, is on the free market, and you're AEW, that's someone who's going to make your company better day one. Sign him.
Yeah. I also thought of another one that I would like to see, Sammy Guevara and Aleister Black.
Oh, Sammy Guevara is going to get buried in that match.
He might, but I think, you know what? Styles make fights, right? Even though it is wrestling, styles make fights. And I think it'll be very interesting to see.
That would be very interesting to see, so... it's gonna be fun to watch, Trevor. Can't stop.
Can't stop. Once you started, it's just keep going.
Can't stop. Won't stop. The Lord our God had dreadlocks. Let's move on and talk about Kenny Omega. So, it was reported that AEW. Oof. I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm getting to the part of the show where I just get giggly.
It happens.
We're having fun on Friday on a Tuesday night, Michael. So, it was reported this week that AEW, Impact, TNA, and AAA Mega Champion Kenny Omega has contemplated retirement recently. It stems from the several injuries he sustained over the past number of years wrestling and his recent belt collector gimmick that has required him to work a more difficult schedule. All of that work combined with the physical and aerobatic and acrobatic style that Omega works is kind of catching up with him. And according to Dave Meltzer, there were some days where he even considered giving up wrestling in the ring altogether. Omega later admitted at WWE or AEW Fan Fest that, having fans back and kind of getting fans back in attendance kind of did ease the pain and make that easier to manage. And then, you can probably say that with the adrenaline and everything that works. So, we'll talk about the injuries. Like, he suffered bruised bones, his tailbone's injured, he has an athletic hernia. He got stitches after the Double or Nothing match with Pac and Orange Cassidy. So we've also heard reports that AEW are only booking Kenny Omega in important matches, so he's only doing title matches from now on. He's not weekly wrestling anymore because of the injury. So I think that's a good sign. But Trevor, what is your reaction to this news that Omega might be contemplating retirement because of he's in pain? And is AEW doing the right thing and handling it the right way?
I think AEW is doing the right thing by saving their investment. I think Kenny Omega is part of the reason why people are checking them out as much as they are. I mean, it will a big reason. I won't say part, a big reason. I mean, the man is talented, and let's just be real. If to go over to Japan and wrestle that strong style like he does, and also put that in with the athletic ability that he has and that acrobatics style, your shelf life is very limited anyway. Look at Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels wrestled years with herniated disc and things like that, which is why he had to cut his career short. Luckily, he was able to come back. But, it happens. In a lot of times you wrestle, you work with injuries. You wrestle with injuries. Like, you have injuries that just never heal themselves. You don't have time to heal them because if, you don't work, you don't make money, and you don't make money, you don't eat. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it happens sometimes. But I honestly understand why why he contemplated retirement, and I think AEW is doing good by it. I do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is something I've thought about, is it maybe the belt collector gimmick also adding to that pain? Because, it's kind of like, on one hand, the belt collector gimmick, like, you're working all these matches, it gets you over, you're winning all these belts, and you're dominating all these different brands. But on the other hand, the physical and mental pressure has to be taxing, and we've seen it. Like,
right.
He's the main event. The physical pressure is all on him to perform at his highest level, and no matter what match he's doing, every match Kenny Omega wrestles has to be a 5-star match. And on top of that, the mental pressure, having all these brands depending on you, also has to be waning on him, you think. And I'm not saying he's doing it's taking away from his work, or no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Kenny Omega's actually he's doing the best work of his career, both mentally and physically. But is that part, you think, maybe the gimmick itself is adding to that?
You'd be a fool not to think that. That's a lot of pressure. Like you say, he is the main event. He is the reason why people buy tickets. Part of it anyway. People come to see just him. So yeah, I think that added pressure is heavy on him. And the other thing is, like you said, the belt collector gimmick. Like, he's performing with other people at other federations, other promotions. Like, it rules kind of change from referee to referee, and sometimes things they don't see. Other wrestlers are stiffer. Other mats don't give like your home mat. It's a whole bunch of other things that go into that. And honestly, I agree that belt collector gimmick has got to be hard on him.
Yeah, and dude, it would be hard on anyone. No,
I don't care who you are.
Kenny Omega is doing something that we have almost never seen like at this level in wrestling,
No,
and that needs to be commended. And he's doing it greatly. Is he a little is he a little corny sometimes? Is it a little hokey? Yes, but at the same time, it's working. And look, nobody was buying an Impact ticket before Kenny Omega became world champion. Now Impact,
no one cared about Impact.
Exactly. Now people are caring about Impact. People are buying Impact pay-per-views because of Kenny Omega. That's
and
a
they're
big
learning
deal.
the wrestlers too. They're learning who's on Impact. No one could tell you 5 wrestlers off Impact before that.
W. Morrissey. And you know, he's doing a similar thing, kind of being the bridge to AAA, being the bridge for all these different brands, and maybe he'll end up being another bridge with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, right. And what is it doing? It's also increasing the name and the recognition internationally and to different audiences of AEW. So it just works. It just works. And God bless Kenny Omega, man. You, dude, after this is over, Kenny Omega needs to be given like the best and biggest vacation ever.
Yeah, he just needs to rest after this shit. He does.
Yeah.
If you can still go, don't retire. Just take a rest. Take a long break.
Oh yeah, Kenny Omega is also like, and I can't wait to see him like after whatever, like 12 months or 18 months when he turns back to being a face. That's gonna be fun. I like that. Face Kenny Omega is fun too, but heel Kenny Omega with Don Callis is just money.
It's absolutely hilarious. I love Kenny Omega.
My face.
Yo, watching him dance down to the ring is the funniest shit possible.
dude, like when he has like the cheerleaders come out, right. They get the brooms, and then the music is playing. It's just it's.
You know, Kenny Omega to me is a real life cartoon character. I love Kenny Omega. He's so animated.
He's anime. No, he's anime. He's somehow corny and hokey at the same time while also being 100% serious. It's great. I love it.
Yes, it works.
Yes, we love it. Let's talk about something that is 100% serious, and that was the Authors of Pain, Trevor. Let's move on and talk about them. That's a name you probably haven't heard of in a while. AOP. So, former WWE Tag Team Champions Akam and Razor of the Authors of Pain took to social media on Wednesday to deny a rumor that they have retired from pro wrestling. Both Akam and Razor posted the same photo of themselves and with Paul Ellering from their time with NXT, captioned, "Ain't done yet, bitches." Earlier Wednesday, Fightful Select reported that a wrestling promoter said that Akam and Razor had retired from the business and are working regular jobs. So that's complete bullshit, apparently. And it also has appeared that AEW did discuss potentially bringing them in last year, but they weren't sure if they were a good fit at the time. You know, there's been a little bit of an injury history with Razor. He was out for a lot of 2020. But AOP, you know, they were a big tag team for a long time. A lot of people thought they were going to be like the next big dominant tag team, especially with their time in NXT, the matches they had with FTR and Gargano and Ciampa were amazing, and their pairing with Paul Ellering just seemed to be working magic. But what do you think about this? You know, what do you think about the Authors of Pain returning to wrestling, and you know, where should they maybe go?
Authors of Pain to me were one of the few like big tag teams at the time that like could move the way they could. Don't take it the wrong way, because I honestly believe the Viking Raiders were great at that too, but Aquaman Razor, I loved it. I really did. I thought they had a lot of potential. They kind of reminded me of a wider and a bigger version of the Road Warriors. They kind of work similar to me, and honestly, I think they need to be in tag team wrestling. They need to be in wrestling because they were good. And I love the scene with Paul Ellering. I thought that touch of Precious Paul was what really drew me to them.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Ellering was great. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. Paul was great. I mean, and he was also with the Road Warriors at one point too. So, at this point, I don't know, because I don't. So I like AEW's tag team division, but I don't think they fit in it.
I see. Here's the thing. I think the Authors of Pain would do great a lot of places they went to. I think New Japan is probably a good place for them to go.
But I think they do better there than they would at AEW, though.
Right now, I think given AEW's current landscape, I don't think you bring them in right now because you have the Young Bucks who are the dominant heel champions.
Right.
But for down the line, I think you want like that dominant heel like powerhouse faction with someone who's great at talking. You know, maybe a year or two down the line, I think they could totally see them being in AEW and working. But New Japan would be the place to go for them because that's also kind of New Japan's MO. Those are the types of people they like to have in those positions, and they would work. They could make a lot of money there. It's up to them if they want to go there. And they could go also anywhere else they want to as well. The thing is though, that thing worked because of Paul Ellering too. He was a great mouthpiece for them. He brought legitimacy to them as a tag team, and this is not taking away anything from Akam and Razor. But when they put the AOP with Drake Maverick, formerly known as Rockstar Spud, it just didn't work, and that was kind of like their descent, and we saw that. So I hope that they just. Exactly. I just hope they kind of learn from that, whoever signs them. And if they do return to wrestling, I hope they learn from that and, maybe go in that direction and, don't fix anything that doesn't need fixing. Don't fix a broken, that's something that's not broken,
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, they're just two big guys who are.
And they're still young, pretty young, too.
Hell yeah. They're two big guys in a dominant tag team champion picture. Dude, you're telling me WWE found a way to fail with these guys, and they didn't find a way to fail with the natural disasters? Fucking come on. The natural disasters were they made Earthquake just going out there cutting promos with Typhoon, going Jack Tunney, that they made that work, but they couldn't make the Authors of Pain work on the main roster.
They couldn't. They can't make shit work on the main roster at this point.
How do you like my Earthquake impersonation, by the way?
It was spot on, actually.
Dude, just every promo, Earthquake, Jack Tunney,
Was he Tugboat too?
No, that was a Typhoon.
Typhoon. Okay.
Remember, Earthquake was Earthquake. So Earthquake was Earthquake, the Shark.
Yes.
It was another Avalanche in WCW.
Yeah.
And then Tugboat ended up becoming Typhoon, and he was something else Cyclone or something in WCW. I don't know. Jack Tunney. God, I love 90s wrestling. Let's come back to Kenny Omega, Trevor, because Kenny Omega successfully defended the Impact World Championship, the Impact World Championship this past weekend. So let's talk about that. This weekend, Omega faced off with... Are you looking at me like that?
Because I can.
Don't look at me like that. I'm just kidding. So this weekend, Kenny Omega faced off against Moose in a match for the Impact World title. The finish of the match saw the referee being bumped after Omega pulled him away from Moose and a spear. The ref went down. Matt and Nick Jackson came to the ring and barraged Moose with super kicks and BTE triggers, helped Omega lift up Moose for the one-winged angel in the victory. After the match, we saw Sami Callihan get involved. And note, Sami Callihan and Kenny Omega have a world title match at Slammiversary for the Impact World Championship. So he attacked Omega and the Young Bucks with a baseball bat. Be careful, Sammy. He was also about to hit Omega with a chair before Don Callis intervened. Afterwards, Callis and Callihan got into it, and it led to Callis, who is still a bit of an authority figure with Impact on camera, firing Sami Callihan from Impact. And then the event ended with Callis and Scott D'Amore, who is actually in charge of Impact, being in a heated discussion. So big schmoz to the end of that. A lot of drama to end against all odds at Impact. So what do you think about the work that Omega has been doing in Impact in general, on one hand, and what do you also think about this feud that Sami Callihan that Omega is involved in?
Well, I mean, like we've said plenty of times before, whatever Omega touches is gold at this point. He's doing a great job over there, and honestly, the people he's wrestling are stepping up as well. Moose from the replays I saw, it was a great match. It's a good match, damn good match. And Moose can work. I don't know how your feelings about Moose, but Moose can work. I know your feelings about Moose now. But no, Moose can work. I thought it was a very entertaining match. I like how they're spreading it out so he won't get too burned out, because honestly, that was my biggest worry about this whole belt collector thing. To piggybacking back on the whole injury situation, I was worried he would get too burned out, and so far they're doing well by it. Him and Sami Callihan, I think that could be a very entertaining match. I think it can be a lot of fun, but I feel like there's a lot of people gonna get hit with stuff.
Watch the face, Sammy. Please.
Exactly.
That is $1 million face in Kenny Omega.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've covered that Kenny Omega has obviously elevated Impact to a different level. They've been selling more pay-per-views than they've sold in the past. They have been doing better ratings. I think it's worked out for both sides. And I think this feud with Sami Callihan, though, allows for things to get a little edgier. Maybe you bring Sami Callihan. That's someone who if you bring Sami Callihan over to AEW, especially in front of a packed house eventually, that's going to get a reaction from the AEW audience because everyone knows Sami Callihan is crazy. He's one of the most intriguing characters in wrestling. So having him come in, I think, would be good. And this feud in general is good. Is he going to beat Sami Callihan going to beat Kenny Omega? I don't know. But the thing about Callihan is that I like is the fact that he's one of these people in wrestling who you will always think is a threat to win.
Yeah.
Even no matter how goofy he is, this dude is legitimately crazy. He's kind of like how Dean Ambrose in WWE. Even at his worst and his lowest stuff, they had him doing, the whole, pew, these smelly people. Even when they had him doing all of that, and you still had this thing, this guy is a threat to win. He's always a threat to win. So it's a similar thing, but and I think with the Omega stuff, he's looking strong, so that he puts him in a good position. So I like it, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. And as far as Kenny Omega, man, saved... who would have thought Impact, man, still alive after all these years, and Kenny Omega is just extending that lifeline even more.
They gotta give him all the money at this point.
Well, yeah, Kenny, here's $10. This is our gate for the night. Wait, I thought we sold tickets. Yeah, we sold 2 tickets.
2 tickets, yeah. Go ahead.
2 tickets. Go yeah, it was not a great. Yeah, hey, that's 2 more tickets than we've sold in the past 5 years. So.
There you go.
All right. All right. Let's keep it going. Trevor, this was a dark side of the ring. This was a very dark side of the ring.
Yes.
Dark Side, yeah. So Dark Side of the Ring aired their episode last week highlighting the life and career of the Dynamite Kid. It was one of the more intense and drama-filled episode of Dark Side of the Ring, and that's even coming off of the Grizzly Smith episode. But we have a few big takeaways, I know. Trevor, why don't you just tell me just your general impressions of the episode to begin with, and then we'll kind of get into, our biggest takeaways.
So I knew a lot about his story anyway in the first place. They did touch a lot of the things that I did know and some things that I didn't know. Again, Dark Side knocks it out of the park again. It was a very good episode. They did highlight his past, which is kind of shady to say the least, and some of the things that happened. And I mean, another thing that I believe they touched on, or maybe not, he has really inspired a lot of wrestlers, man. He inspired British Bulldog. I mean, he's British Bulldog's partner for so many years. He also Owen, unfortunately, Chris Benoit, and that's just to name a few.
Yeah, the interesting thing when they got to it right off the bat, and if you know the story of the Dynamite Kid, for anyone who's watching, you know it, that Dynamite Kid might actually be the reason. we don't see the Bryan Danielsons of the world. We don't see the Ricochets. We don't see any of these guys without Dynamite Kid. So in the story of wrestling, the importance of the Dynamite Kid was paramount to bring that type of style in. And we'll talk about how that was also a good thing because he inspired the modern style that we all love. But it's also a cautionary tale because he did it to a degree which I don't think you want to take it. And it's very similar to the Chris Benoit story in that, was it that dangerous style that might have been his downfall? So, like, again, it's a double-edged sword, and that's what I love about Dark Side of the Ring. They show the complexities of these people because it's not just a wrestling story. It's a story of a person who just happens to be in wrestling, and that's what makes Dark Side of the Ring so special and so transcendent. As far as the story goes, I'm just going to start off with my first takeaway, and then I'll let you do one, and we'll come back. But my first big takeaway, was the story about him in the Snake Pit Club. So for those of you who don't know, in England, there's this place, this training facility called the Snake Pit Club, where it's like the Hart Mansion on steroids. Like, that's a place you go to, you get your ass kicked, you get beat up. And that's your initiation into the business. That's your initiation into fighting. You get beat up. And, a lot of people thought, the place toughened him up, but it also maybe traumatized him early on in the career. And, like, maybe that's what led to a lot of the violence later on. So, and, it's just also a story of violence, man. Like, this guy, he broke Mick Foley's jaw in one of Mick Foley's first matches and acted like he didn't do anything wrong. Like so this was a very violent character. Like he went around and a lot of people think that draws back to maybe the trauma, maybe the way he was kind of brought into the business in the Snake Pit Club.
Yeah, I believe the whole Snake Pit Club thing with him. I believe that really messed him up. I believe that really messed him up. It was it was traumatizing. It could have been. One takeaway for me was the Jacques Rougeau. That
was crazy. I didn't even know about that. I had no idea about that story. And
so I heard some pieces of it throughout my time watching wrestling, but not to the degree that they told it on that story on Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, I mean, and like the Rougeau story too is just insane. Like, he like Dynamite was someone like I just talked about. Like, he's someone who like he could get violent at times, and the whole story was what like Jacques Rougeau was kind of like a overconfident kid in the business. Yeah. Dynamite felt like he didn't pay his due, so Dynamite beat him up, and it left Rougeau in a really bad way, physically and mentally. And Rougeau. What?
Knocked his teeth out, no?
No. That's what Rougeau did to Dynamite.
That's what. Yeah, afterwards.
Yeah, but afterwards, so afterwards, Dynamite Rougeau rather, he went up to Dynamite with apparently he said it was like quarters in his fist. Everyone else says it was brass knuckles. That's how the story goes. So, but he took these brass knuckles and he punched out 4 of Dynamite's teeth, and then. And to get back at Dynamite, and then there was like a whole incident with the Mafia where Rougeau apparently, he told this rumor to Dino Bravo that he had a hit out on Dynamite's family, which Rougeau claims was just to kind of mess with Dynamite. It wasn't true, but it did, and it ended up having them move out of their house. So that was a crazy tale, man. It just shows you like tales like that from this episode, and the one where Dynamite apparently drugged this wrestler and then, defecated in his bag, and then like stuff like that. It's just crazy to think about, like that era in wrestling and the stuff that was going on at that time that was normal.
The stuff like that, like it actually, from what I remember hearing before this, Dark Side of the Ring, he used to do that to quite often, actually, defecating the rookie's bag. And stuff like that. I think he did it to Rougeau, I think.
Yeah. Well, he did it. Yeah, and he was kind of known for that ribbing, but like that's like where a lot of people were like, "This isn't ribbing. This is just you being
that's bullying, dude.
Indecent." Like, Like stop being Randy Orton or Randy Orton. That's Dynamite's kids inspired a lot of people. Randy Orton was one of those
Really
people.
did. I remember the story that Chris Jericho told once. I remember bits. I remember mostly. He said he met. This is like closer to when Dynamite death, I guess, a few years after he died, before he died. I'm sorry. He was at a bar. Chris Jericho was at a bar. And he was at this bar, and Dynamite was drunk on the pretty much drunk in a bad way on at the bar, and these guys were talking shit, and he pretty much told him he was like, oh, yeah, you want to mess with me? You want to mess with me? And like as drunk as he was, got up and fucked these guys up. Like still old as he was and drunk as he was, like incoherently beat the shit out of these guys, and they had to escort him out of the bar.
Man, that's crazy, and the other part, like we're sticking with violence, because unfortunately that's part of the story. Is the domestic violence that went on. Like after Dynamite's injury, like his ex-wife noted that he did get more violent. He had a back injury that really debilitated him for a lot of his career. He became more violent with people. He became more violent at home, and we saw that develop in just terrible ways. We saw he pulled a gun on his wife. He did terrible things, and again, it's a cautionary tale. It's a very cautionary tale of knowing when you've gone too far. And in that time, it was a lot of people, ended up having lives like the Dynamite Kid. But man, the Dynamite Kid is I think one of the biggest cautionary tales in pro wrestling. It's like him and Benoit are the two biggest cautionary tales in wrestling when pro wrestling can go wrong.
And it's so crazy because Benoit, he was Benoit's muse pretty much. Like he wanted to wrestle like Benoit wanted to wrestle like Dynamite Kid. Like, and he studied everything. I mean, that flying headbutt came from Dynamite Kid. Like
he called himself the Pegasus Kid. Like,
yeah, he did. Yeah, and that drop kick, Dynamite Kid. Like he tried to wrestle just like Dynamite Kid, and I mean, and it's crazy and kind of creepy that the way Benoit's life ended up,
Yeah, it is, and again, just to put a bow on the Dynamite Kid, unless you have something else you want to add, Trevor, I think that whether you're a wrestling fan or not, this is a story that you can watch and you could not only learn from, but it's something that's appealing to just an entire audience, and it does show the dark side of wrestling. Like Dark Side of the Ring, they put out some episodes that have hit or missed this year. Like they don't really count as like dark side. Like the collision in Korea. Yeah, that's like it's a bit like whatever, right? Again, right. Similar things with the episode about the Ultimate Warrior, but like this is like I think pro wrestling at one of its darkest points. Like the Grizzly Smith episodes they just did, and now Dark Side of the Ring I believe is going to be on hiatus until September. So they're going to wait till September to dish out more episodes. So that's going to do it for this segment, at least for a few months.
Yeah, can't wait for it to come back though.
Yeah, man, can't wait to hear about the plane ride from hell. That's gonna dark. That's the fun side of the ring. Triple H. Oh man. All right. Let's get to our fan question of the week, Trevor. Let's get to this. So, this was an interesting question, and I think the reason I picked this is because it's actually close to something that was in the news recently. So, a fan asked this, but. In the news, The Rock said that, I believe he said, Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan was the most important match ever. I heard about that.
I did remember hearing that, yeah.
But like, so that kind of was why I picked this question. So, fan asks, what is the most important match in wrestling history? Loaded question.
It is. I can think of a few things. Few matches that you would think that help revolutionize wrestling.
But what's like the one that comes to mind for you? You think?
Right now, just off when I first thought about it, off Bucks was the So it wasn't the first match of its kind. Let's get that straight before I say this. It wasn't the first ladder match. It wasn't. People try to say it was the first ladder match. It was not. But it was the first time that it was seen the way it was seen. Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, when they did that first ladder match on a big plateau, a big platform like that, a big stage, it was something you've never seen before. It was something that no one had ever thought they would see, and it helped revolutionize those type of matches. Like it was an amazing match. I remember to this day seeing that match and thinking to myself, my brother sitting next to me, he was like, yo, they're using the ladder. This is crazy. Like it was just in the way that match went. And it wasn't what the ladder matches turned into now when you have like 50,000 ladders around the ring. It was just two ladders. And they ended up breaking one of them. But yeah, it was that's one of the matches I thought of when I first thought about this question.
That's interesting. I mean, I think that match is important, right? Because it did revolutionize modern wrestling,
right?
Especially like after that came the TLC matches, and then like it just raised the bar so much for matches to come after that. There's a lot of routes we could have gone here. Like, I think a lot of people would say conventionally maybe one of the Hogan era matches. Like you could say Hogan Iron Sheik because that was a match where Hogan won and it created Hulkamania. You could say maybe Hogan versus Andre because that really made WWE the big staple in professional wrestling. Or you could say, maybe Mick Foley winning the WWE title on Raw because that was a turning point of the Monday Night Wars. So there's a lot of places to go, but knowing me, I like to go way, way back.
I have an idea what you're gonna say, but I'm gonna let you say it first.
Yeah, I don't think you do. This is like only me and Jim Cornette know that this exists. But in 1925, there was a match. Yeah. So in 1925, there was a match between Ed Strangler Lewis, who is probably pound for pound the strongest champion in wrestling history. There was a match between him and this guy called Wayne Munn. And Munn was a rookie in wrestling, and Lewis Lewis was the champion. He was thought to be this institution. Nobody could beat Strangler Lewis. And that was like the whole talk of the match. That no one can beat Ed Strangler Lewis. He is legitimately the biggest guy. He won't do business. Like, you can't get him to drop the belt. And the thing is, this was the first time, Trevor, that doing business really became a thing. Because before that, wrestling was like this in a weird flux of like a work, shoot, work. Like we talk about promos towing the line. Back then, wrestling legitimately towed the line between reality and fiction. But this was like one of the first times on a big stage that people were surprised, because in this match between Ed Lewis and Wayne Munn ended up winning, and that's when this was the first huge surprise title change in like wrestling history, and people were shocked. This made like papers all around the country. People were in like, how did this rookie, this no-name person, beat Ed Strangler Lewis? And it was because Ed Lewis was willing to do business. And this opened up the opportunity for Munn to later on face, Stanislav Zbyszko. It opened up for things to happen down the line. Other people to want to do business, and it was a domino that has led to everything that has led up to this moment in time in wrestling. And for me, the desire for Ed Lewis to be smart enough to do business and setting that precedent, I think, is for me the most important match in the history of wrestling. Because without that, none of this happens.
That's a damn good one. That's a damn good pick. And I figured you were gonna pick something that was really history based. The other one that I was thinking of was, and this is the one I thought you were gonna pick, was the Muhammad Ali and Antonio Inoki.
Oh man, no, that was Well, that was important for me because I was like, oh my God. This is. I was like, how is Antonio Inoki holding his own? And I thought Antonio Inoki was a god when I saw that match. I was like, yo, he is fucking up Muhammad Ali.
Well, it's also, and also I say it's important because wrestling's a combat sport, right? So it's important for that because it's one of the first times you saw two people from different backgrounds merge, have a inner fight, whatever. And I'll say that was kind of a big thing. It was maybe not as important as the match you mentioned, but kind of a big thing too.
Yeah, that's true. And by the way, Antonio Inoki, for those who don't know, he's currently in the hospital. And he was in critical condition. I think he's stable now. But big prayers up to Antonio Inoki, man. He is, for anyone who doesn't know, Antonio Inoki is wrestling royalty, wrestling god. Like I know JBL is like appropriated that title somehow, but Antonio
wrestling god. If you've never seen anything Inoki has done, do yourself a favor and check him out.
If you like the style of New Japan, if you like Shinsuke Nakamura, Kenny Omega, even in New Japan or in WWE,
Great
whatever,
Buddha, all those guys,
all those guys are because of Antonio Inoki. So, big prayers, thoughts, whatever. Give those to Antonio Inoki and his family right now, man, because he is literally wrestling royalty. Yeah, I think that's good. Oh wait, Darren Young. He signed with New Japan. What do you think about that? So
I meant to say something about that. Yeah, he did. He's wrestling under his real name now.
Yeah. I forgot what his real name is. Something Fuller, right?
Fred is Frank. I think his actual name is like Frederick Douglass something.
Like Fred Rosser, I think, right?
Yeah, it's Fred Rosser. Yeah, he's going by Fred Rosser.
So Fred Rosser, aka Darren Young, has just signed with New Japan. What do you think about that?
Good for him, man. Like seriously, good for him. Like, I mean, not to take anything away from him, from how big of a sign this is, but also before I finish this, happy Pride to all those who celebrated. Happy Pride Month. But so there were gay wrestlers in wrestling before, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when Darren came out in modern day, that was. Like he put himself on a pedestal higher than most, right? And again, unfortunately, I think that his fall from WWE had something to do with it. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it was, but it could have been. But he went on the Indies and kept working. Now, Darren Young was a great talent, man, and probably one of the better ones that came out of that Nexus era. He was good. Darren Young was amazing, very athletic guy. He had decent mic skills. He just had a personality about him. So it's good to see him do well and go to New Japan.
Yeah, and
I hope he wins a couple belts.
I thought they were onto something when he was in WWE. They had him paired with Bob Backlund, who was just money.
I love that angle. I thought that was so cool.
And then they just dropped it like they do everything else. But, Darren Young, he had momentum then. And look, like it's not to take away anything from him, but he became the first ever openly gay wrestler in WWE because, like you said, there have been openly gay wrestlers on the indie circuit. There have been openly gay wrestlers on throughout wrestling history, like Patterson.
I was about to say, was Patterson completely open about it?
He not until later in his life, but it was kind of like people in WWE knew obviously, but like it wasn't like one of those things. Like for him to open that door, I think it was a big moment, and he in that sense is a trailblazer, and that did, I think, in the time really shine a spotlight on him. And again, it was just WWE dropping the ball on something again. But I think he's great. He was always a solid hand in the ring. He was always charismatic too. The stuff he did with the primetime players, and Bob Backlund was great. And I wish him the best because he deserves it.
Yeah, I hope we talk about him on this show again sometimes. I really do.
Wait, are you talking about Darren Young or Bob Backlund?
Darren Young.
Also, by the way, guys, Bob Backlund, Mr. I will never eat marijuana. Guess what he's promoting nowadays? Marijuana and CBD oil. I love
Yes.
2021.
Wow.
Oh
He's
my
a
god.
psychopath, though. Love him to death.
Now he's only eating marijuana. Yeah. Anything else going on in wrestling, Trevor?
Oh, for those who actually watch the show that give a shit and actually care, it's official. Matt Cardona and my man Nick Gage will be duking it out for the championship.
The prestigious GCW heavyweight champion.
Very prestigious, goddammit. Just guard your face, Matt.
You know what he should do? He should legitimately wear like a face mask, like one of those Cody Rhodes face masks.
Yeah.
That like the broken Cody Rhodes face mask, where you're just like, you can't hit me, don't touch the face.
But
like,
you know
that
what?
Would be an amazing gimmick, actually.
It would be
GCW, like he
Cardona,
and then and imagine, dude. You don't have to do much. Like that. This is another thing. Like have that be the thing, and then like whenever he gets cut, it's gonna be a huge deal, and everyone's gonna pop.
Right.
Wrestling's so simple. I should be a booker. We're gonna start our own federation, Trevor. The Real Take Wrestling Federation.
Oh shit.
The RTWF Muggle. Oh man.
Man, that's up for me.
All right. Well. Ooh. I just have one last thing. Oh man. So, do you know WWE's returning to Saudi Arabia officially? Right? You heard about this?
No.
Yeah, they're officially returning. You know what that means?
Saudi Hogan.
Oh no, something better than Saudi Hogan. The return to WWE to Saudi Arabia for WWE in the fall means the return of Saudi Taker, baby.
Oh Jesus Christ!
All his glory. Saudi Taker coming for that royal blood money.
This is actually substantially better.
Rest in peace, Habibi. As Eunice would say. Big ups to Eunice, by the way. Oh man, Saudi Taker. Now we got Saudi Hogan and Saudi Taker on the show.
There you go.
Who's the next big Saudi Arabian Saudi-ized the person?
It will happen. It will happen.
Oh, no, this show will never be funded and paid for by Saudi Arabia. I can 100% promise you that. That will never happen. No.
Never.
I will cease operations.
I will cease operations
before I ever allow that to happen. Anyway, fun show, Trevor. Right at the 2-hour mark. Any last words, last things you want to say before we head out?
Keep those questions coming, guys. Can't wait to read them next week. Figure out what the fuck's going on.
Oh, by the way, next week we might be preempted. There's a chance we might be, because so here's the thing: NBA draft, draft lottery. Sorry, the NBA draft lottery is next week, and I was thinking about doing a live stream of that.
Okay.
So the show either might start later, like it might either start later at 9:30, or it might be pushed back to another day. So we'll talk about that, and we'll keep you guys updated. But next week, the NBA Draft Lottery live coverage right here on Real Take Sports. So be sure to check that out. Subscribe to get that. Subscribe for Real Take Sports Talk. Subscribe for Real Take Wrestle Talk. Subscribe for everything else that I'm about to do that is going to take hours away from my life. But I love you guys so much because I do it. And yeah.
There you go.
All right, there we go. So for Trevor.
Peace.
Myself. Later. And Saudi Taker. We out.
We out.
Later.